If I were a buzzer, out to the woods I would buzz and buzz, there to remain a buzzer until the day that I died. Now, see, that's actually a call and response song, so I will teach it to you later in the day, so you guys can do it. There are additional verses. The woodpecker one is really fun. So my name is Rachel Powers. Thank you all for coming. Woohoo! So excited to see all you here. So we've got a couple of people doing welcome addresses, so I'm going to defer to them, do a quick introduction of each of them, and then we'll have the welcome, because when we have such important people, we don't like to keep them waiting too long. So, yes. So we have Vince Ryan here, who is the Harris County Attorney, and Tina Paez, who is with the representing Mayor Turner. He asked her to come and speak on his behalf with the Office of, Department of Administration and Regulatory Affairs, which has the sustainability program, among other things under it. But to start off, Vince Ryan was elected as the Harris County Attorney in 2012. He spent time as a city council member on the board of the Panama Canal Commission and as an active duty officer for the U.S. Army. He also went to Rice. I love that. So, yes, and U of H. And for those of you who have grabbed one of these agendas, on the back, I don't know which side's the back, but the table topic talks, at the very bottom there's a link, and you can go to that link and see a full biography. So I encourage you to do that. So, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Vince.
I hate standing behind podiums. You got to do that too much when you're a lawyer. But yes, I'm Vince Ryan, your Harris County Attorney. And the Harris County Attorney, as many of you know, is the civil attorney for county government. In most counties throughout Texas, the county attorney does misdemeanor prosecution and civil work at the request of county government. In this county and several others, Fort Bend County, the county attorney is the civil attorney, and we have arguably in Harris County the strongest authority in the state to be the other officials' attorney, whether they like it or not. So part of the challenge of being your county attorney is working with all the other elected and appointed officials. And we're just talking to Tina is, often I tell people, and they really haven't thought about this, is that we have between the city of Houston the strongest mayor forum in the country, and then county government, which is a 15.5-minute walk between City Hall and the county administration building. And I did that when I was elected to city council because I left the county government working for Mike Driscoll. And you probably remember Mike Driscoll was county attorney for 16 years, and he was very environmentally active as your county attorney. To foolishly get elected to city council and spend 6 years being frustrated, wondering why did I leave being the first assistant county attorney, the top assistant, to come up here and be a frustrated city council member. And I was there before term limits kicked in, so I was with the icons. And speaking about environmental, Eleanor and Tinsley, and I know Kathleen Omsby is going to be speaking about sparks. Nobody was more environmentally conscious than Eleanor and Tinsley. And I still this day ask Kathleen if I can still say this. When Vince Ryan grows up, I want to be like Eleanor Tinsley. But I think she made the most of being on city council. I think that she really did. Being on city council, being on school board, the Spark program is, and there's Kathleen back there. The Spark program is truly one of her legacies that Kathleen's doing a great job in continuing. But we at the county, and I first got elected in 2008, took office January 1st, 2009, was re-elected 2012, 2016. But one of the things I pledged when I campaigned the first time is that we were going to ramp up again our environmental enforcement activities. And our managing attorney for our environmental group, Rock Owens, is back there. And Rock and I worked together with Mike Driscoll, and he stayed in office. And we now have Rock and 4 other attorneys who spend virtually all their time on environmental issues, and then support staff, 2 paralegals and other support staff, because I tell people, we cannot wait on working on environmental issues. I've told people that even those who probably are not in this room, but those who try to deny the issues about the environment, about global warming, is would anybody leave a young child in a closed garage with a running automobile? Of course not. Well, in many ways, we are in a closed garage. It's called the Earth. And we have millions and millions of cars. And most countries, China probably being the most obvious one, do not have nearly the regulations we do on pollutions and contamination from cars. And then we have the biggest petrochemical complex in the world. So one of the things I pledged to do when I campaigned in 2008, and which I think we're doing a lot of, is environmental enforcement. Some of the marquee issues you've seen, and we've got Jackie Young here with the San Jacinto River Coalition, was the San Jacinto waste pits. And probably everybody in this room is more aware of than most people in Houston and Harris County, but anybody that's ever gone across the bridge on I-10 and looked to the left as they're going east and seen these berms that are nothing but waste that have been put there. And one of the first things that Rock got me involved in was going out to look at the San Jacinto waste pits. I'll never forget going out there. This was in 2009. And luckily, I'd been advised to wear boots. And we go out on the berm, have a boat take us out there, and walking around that berm, which is just, you can see it, it's huge, right off of the bridge going across I-10, and this black ooze was coming up everywhere on the berm, and that was the dioxin that was just oozing all over the place. And every time, of course, there was a rain event or a storm event, it was going into the bay. So our goal on that issue, we settled for $29 million with one of the responsible parties, Waste Management. The others, unfortunately, lost in court. But with that $29 million, a lot of good things are being done. And we're working, and Jackie's group is working as hard as we can. Everybody in this room needs to help on this, is convincing the EPA that that dioxin needs to be removed, not remain in place. There's a whole group, what's it called, Jackie, again? No, the group that's trying to keep it stay in its place. Keep it capped. Well, anybody, and probably everybody in this room has been through hurricanes again. Keeping it capped makes no sense. The times it's been checked, there have been breaches in the current berm that exist. But the responsible parties, Waste Management International Paper, don't want to spend the $50 to the $100 million it probably will cost to remove it. We think it's the signature project that we need your help on to make sure that it's removed, because unfortunately it's not the only waste pit that's even in that area. In fact, some of you may have read Galveston County has other waste pits that are very similar. Also, the responsible parties are very similar. So the issues of environment that you all are passionate about are something that we have tried to emphasize in the office of the Harris County Attorney's Office, and I think we've had good support generally from the Commissioner's Court. But we cannot educate the public too little. The more we educate the public, the more we educate our school children, the more we emphasize how important it is to have clean air, clean water, not to have corporate pollution that will contaminate our world forever, is something that we try to fight for every day in the County Attorney's Office. And we have generally very good support from our Commissioner's Court and other county officials, but the battle continues. And one of our good allies has been the City of Houston, and it was good under Mayor Neese Parker, but it's become even better under our new mayor, Sylvester Turner. With that, let me turn this over to Tina.
I am going going to use the podium. He's a very tough act to follow. Thank you, Rachel, and the Citizens Environmental Coalition for the invitation to speak here today. I appreciate the kind introduction and the warm welcome. On behalf of Mayor Sylvester Turner and the City of Houston, I want to welcome all of you to the Greater Houston Environmental Summit. Although the mayor could not be here today, he's in Jamaica taking a long-needed vacation, because I don't know if you've seen him, but my boss works hard, like 24/7. So I'm glad that he's out of the country. But I want you to know that sustainability is a huge priority for the City of Houston, and he wanted you to know that as well. It's become a big priority for him. The City of Houston Sustainability Office, many of you may know this, was moved to my department, the Department of Administration and Regulatory Affairs, a little bit over a year ago. And it was a heck of a year for that to be moved to our department with everything that's happening nationally, especially in this area. In both Austin and in Washington, D.C., cities are front and center in virtually every public policy debate, from immigration to school financing to even things like tree trimming. Cities are the ones that are carrying the banner for the environment and for all local policy issues. Climate change is obviously no exception. Immediately after President Trump announced his intent to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement, you'll remember Mayor Sylvester Turner helped to gather support from over 400 climate mayors representing 65 million Americans to adopt and uphold the commitments to the goals in the Paris Agreement. As co-chair for the National Climate Mayors Initiative, Mayor Turner is working with his fellow leaders to find new ways to meet current climate goals, push for new action to meet the 2 degrees Celsius target, and create a 21st century clean energy economy. Houston has chosen to lead by example through our own municipal operations and show how the provisions of the Paris Agreement make financial sense. By reducing our own greenhouse gas emissions by 35% since 2007, and powering nearly 90% of municipal operations with solar and wind, we show that if a city the size of Houston can do it, any city can do it. We're living proof that a large industrial city can have a robust economy while fighting climate change. From a sustainability perspective, this past year has produced several big wins for Houston, even though nationally it hasn't. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the City of Houston uses nearly 1 billion kilowatt hours of electricity per year, of green power electricity per year, which represents almost 90% of our total energy needs consumption. As a result, for the 3rd year in a row, Houston was named the #1 municipal user of green energy in the nation by the United States EPA's Green Power Partnership. Houston is also #7 on the EPA's overall top 100 green power users.
Good job! Yay!
Our biggest news for this year was that the city's power purchase agreement for a 50 megawatt solar facility in Alpine, Texas came online just in time for Earth Day. This represents just over 10% of the city's power consumption and includes buildings such as the Houston Zoo, the passenger terminals at Intercontinental Airport, my building, 611 Walker, and our wastewater treatment plants. In exchange for purchasing the additional megawatts that got us to 50, the overall contract price was reduced by 8%, resulting in an estimated $40 million in savings over the 20-year term of the contract. Houston also created the first municipal property assessed clean energy program, PACE, last year to provide an additional tool for Houston property owners to finance energy efficiency, renewable energy, and water conservation projects. This past June, we announced Houston's first PACE project, which at just over $2 million was the largest PACE project in Texas at that time. Dallas recently introduced a bigger one just to compete with us. We are also continuing to see progress in the city's ongoing sustainability initiatives. For example, with respect to our buildings, LEED certification and energy efficiency retrofitting are ongoing projects for the city. Since 2004, the city has required that any new building that we build has to be LEED certified. We currently have 37 LEED certified buildings in the city with plans to add more through 2020. To date, the city has invested more than $70 million in energy efficiency retrofits. 6 million square feet of retrofitted city facilities are expected to achieve guaranteed energy use reductions of 30%, saving over 22 million kilowatt hours of electricity every year. The city's most recent retrofitting projects were in Parks and Recreation and in the Library Department, where we recently retrofitted 18 city libraries. With respect to our City of Houston vehicle fleet, Houston has the 4th largest municipal hybrid fleet in the nation. We were also among the first of the municipalities in the nation to use electric vehicles in our city pool vehicle fleet. The pool vehicle program has seen an increase of 50% in the vehicles that are used which means there's fewer vehicles being used because there's more consumption of the existing vehicles. Another ongoing energy efficiency initiative was the citywide streetlight conversion, which many of you have seen has been very controversial in front of City Council. But the City of Houston asked in 2014 for CenterPoint to convert approximately 175,000 streetlights with the goal to decrease our streetlight energy usage by 50% and decrease our greenhouse gas emissions by 5%. And thanks to the Super Bowl, although this was supposed to be a multi-year project, the project is almost finished. And how often do you hear the city say that? The Public Works Department also just finished replacing the incandescent bulbs at 2,400 signalized intersections with LEDs. As a result, the city is now realizing a savings of over $3.6 million per year. So now shifting gears a little bit, earlier this week, Rachel sent me a list of topics she wanted me to cover while we were here. And that included the city's ongoing projects for sustainability, as well as any of our initiatives. And I've covered that pretty thoroughly. But she also wanted me to focus on the sustainability team and what exactly ARA was and how sustainability fit into ARA, which I understand. As I mentioned earlier, the sustainability team was moved from the Office of the Mayor to ARA about a year ago. We refer to it as ARA, but it's Administration and Regulatory Affairs. Our department has about 400 employees. We've been in existence since 2007. We used to be partnered with the City Finance Department, and we were split in 2007 to allow finance to concentrate on the budget and administration to concentrate on all of those things that were either administrative or regulatory. So yes, we have the city animal shelter. We also have the city's 311 program. We have citywide payroll, about 49% of the city's permits related to business permitting. But we also manage all on-street parking and any citywide parking initiative. We manage transportation, taxi cabs, limousines, pedicabs, and until very recently, rideshare, which included Uber and Lyft. We also regulate CenterPoint Energy, which is the city's distribution, well, the citywide partner in distribution of electricity and gas. We also regulate several private water companies. So when you look at sustainability as a citywide issue rather than a City of Houston issue, it makes sense that you'd want that function to be in an area that daily touches the providers of energy and water and those folks who might regulate the streets and the cars, and even have 311 if you want to report environmental concerns. So I'd like to be able to tell you that I'm an expert in sustainability, but I'm not. Obviously, I have worked extensively with CenterPoint on the regulatory side. Obviously, I was involved in rolling out the streetlights and in several of our energy contracts as they were awarded. But most importantly, I know that what I don't know, I need to supplement with people who do know, and I've got a great sustainability team now. I'd like to introduce Laura Cottingham and Larissa Williams, if you guys would please stand. This is our permanent sustainability team in the City of Houston. Laura Cottingham is the sustainability executive for the City of Houston, who actually heads up the sustainability division and has been responsible for overseeing the initiatives that I just read to you over the last year. Laura has 12 years of communications and public policy experience. She's the member of my team you're most likely to see on TV and quoted in the Chronicle and in front of City Council, because she's not just the sustainability leader, but she's also my public information officer and our media liaison. Prior to joining the City of Houston, Laura was a member of Hill Milton Strategies. She provided strategic counsel in sustainability and social responsibility issues for clients in the energy sector. She also worked in Washington, D.C., previously serving as communications director for the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee, the vice chair of the House Transportation Committee, and the vice chairman of the Sustainable Energy and Environmental Caucus. Laura attended the University of Texas in Austin, where she graduated magna cum laude. In 2013, she earned an MBA in Energy Finance and Public Affairs from UT, where she co-founded the UT Energy Savings Fund. We're also really thrilled to have Larissa Williams join our team. Larissa is a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She attended Southern University and A&M College, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, and Belhaven University, where she earned an MBA. Larissa joined us about a month ago as energy manager. She is the first certified energy manager in the city in more than a decade. We're actually hoping that in that role she's going to be able to help us on the demand side of energy, which is something that the city has been lacking for the last few years. She's responsible for oversight of the municipal energy benchmarking portfolio, as well as our annual greenhouse gas reporting and community-wide emission inventory. Prior to coming to the City of Houston, Larissa worked for the Mississippi State Government for 4 years, overseeing staff and programs related to energy management. She also worked in the natural gas industry for 12 years. Laura and Larissa are the full-time City of Houston staff, and they're supported by several college interns with an interest in this area. The sustainability team overall is tasked with maintaining the city's building energy benchmarking portfolio, analyzing the efficiency of nearly 500 buildings and over 10,000 utility meters. They also conduct an annual greenhouse gas emission audit for municipal operations and coordinate with all city departments to produce the annual carbon disclosure report. Our goals for this year are to finalize the community greenhouse gas audit and begin the process of building a community-wide sustainability plan, which is going to be a multi-year plan that we're hoping that you'll all become involved in. You can learn about all of these projects and everything else that we have going forward on our website at www.greenhoustontx.gov. And finally, as you might have noticed from the listing of sustainability accomplishments that I read through earlier, there were projects representing multiple city departments. It's important to note that even though the sustainability division sits in ARA in my department, every single city department is responsible for leading a sustainability initiative and has sustainability responsibilities. The planning department, for example, is expanding the B-Cycle program and the Houston Bike Plan. The Parks Department is adding new parks and working with public-private partners to expand the Buffalo Bayou Park East and Bayou Greenways Trail Network. The Solid Waste Department is working on a much-anticipated new recycling contract. The Public Works and Health Departments work daily to ensure the health and safety of air and water. And these are just a few examples because there isn't enough time to list all of the sustainability projects that we have. But what I want you to take most from this list is that sustainability programs are not separate from the mayor, and they're not the primary responsibility of ARA. They're the responsibility of every city department. And what the mayor has created in putting this in a city department is one, sustainability for the sustainability division. It is now institutionalized with its own budget, something that it had not previously been before when it was in the mayor's office. He wants it to be able to go on past his administration. The other thing that I'd like for you to know is that the mayor is extremely supportive of this. This is not an isolated thing. This is not just an ARA. It is a citywide priority, a citywide project, and it's also community-wide. So thank you again for having me today. Laura and Larissa and I look forward to working with all of you, and I hope you enjoy your summit. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're ahead of schedule, so do you guys mind taking just a couple questions, or do you need to?
Not at all. I'll have to bring up Laura and Larissa to get anything going.
So, we have a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, for the second speaker, given the awareness of waste minimization and solid waste management that we've had recently, what plans, near term, medium term, long term, does the city have for electrifying the waste truck fleet? Since that's probably one of the largest non-compliance areas for the recent idling problem.
I know that our solid waste director, Harry Hayes, has been looking at several options, not just electrifying, but other alternative fuel options, and he hasn't come back with a recommendation yet. So I can't answer that directly, but as soon as we know, I promise you all of you will know, because it's something that will be hitting everyone with a media release.
So there is a near-term focus on it.
There is. That's something that he's actually been looking at for the last 2 years.
Thank you.
You spoke a lot about the commercial sector and all of the projects that the city is taking the lead on. What about the non-commercial sector? Does the city have a hand in that? And is there any incentive for private individuals?
Are you talking about PACE for residential?
Talking about, yes, primarily.
Laura?
So right now, state law only allows PACE to be on commercial properties. It specifically doesn't apply to residential, because in other states where they had residential, things got a little out of hand. It was right when a lot of the subprime lending was going on, and it got wrapped into that, and it got a bad reputation. And PACE is a great program, and Texas was a little bit, we were later to endorse PACE than other states, which actually worked in our favor because we missed out on all of that. But as a result, it's probably going to be a little while longer before we have a residential option.
Laura, do you know if that was something that was recommended in this year's legislative session?
It hasn't been recommended yet, just because we want to make sure that the commercial side of things takes off and is great and everyone sees how successful it is. And then we build a residential program that's really strong and there's no doubts, there's no holes, there's no opportunity for people to be taken advantage of. Because a lot of times people say, I'll save you a ton of money, I'm going to slap these solar panels on your house. And then, 2 years later, suddenly your bills have gone crazy. Did you hear any of that? I'm sorry.
And PACE, the acronym stands for,
Property Assessed Clean Energy.
right behind you.
When will we have a City of Houston climate action plan?
That is a really good question. I know one of the things the mayor has charged us with immediately is coming up with a community-wide sustainability plan. Climate action plan would have to be after that because we don't even have our community sustainability plan yet. And hopefully we'll be working with HARC on that pretty soon.
I thought we had a sustainability plan.
We have a rough outline of a sustainability plan, but the City of Houston is changing. The climate nationally is changing. And so your sustainability plan has to keep evolving. So what we had in place that was good 2 or 3 years ago is really not relevant anymore in this climate.
This is a question for both speakers. Where is there opportunity for civic scientists and entrepreneurs to get involved in some of the initiatives of the city and of Harris County? I can,
Did you say civic scientists?
yeah, civic scientists and entrepreneurs, how can we get involved in driving some of your all's agendas?
Well, I think certainly, I don't know about other people in the room, but I was very impressed. In fact, I asked Tina if I could have a copy of her presentation, and she gave me the written copy, although I still need to go online to get it because I'm going to distribute it around the county. As I alluded to, part of the challenge in having these programs is the quite mishmash of local government responsibilities. What we've just heard from Tina, I think, is an example, because I knew Mayor Park was doing a good job on various initiatives, but I wasn't fully aware of all the different things that Mayor Turner has done in his very short time in office. But again, part of the advantage of the city system is you do have the city manager, the mayor, at the top of the structure. In most other government throughout Texas especially, you've got, as we do at the county, a lot of different elected and appointed officials. County attorney, the district attorney, the 4 county commissioners, the county judge who has a representative here, the county clerk, district clerk, on and on and on, all the judges that we have at various levels. So getting, again, I tell people too why that sounds frustrating when we're talking about how do we get advances on cleaning up the environment, making the world a safer place for us environmentally. As I tell people though, democracy, when you think about it, with all the different elected and appointed officials, is not meant to be efficient. It's meant to lessen human weakness from exercising itself. So a lot of what the initiatives are that each of you hold in your heart and in your passion and in your efforts are very slow in coming. And while it was alluded to at the national level, we certainly, and I know Rock and his group in our office, are holding our breath, waiting to see what is really going to happen with the EPA and with environmental efforts at the national level. And that is where the most change can happen for the best and for the worst. So at the various levels, I think we at the county, I think our county commissioners are generally involved and supportive of environmental initiatives. But again, one of the things I was just talking to Rock about, we don't have a county office of sustainability. We have an engineer, county engineer, we have a flood control director, we have the toll road, which is a separate department of county government. So a lot of different moving parts, and part of the challenge is getting it all to move together. But today has certainly encouraged me to sit down again with various other elected officials of county government and talk about things and look at things, quite frankly, are going on in the city of Houston, how can we replicate them at the county?
From our perspective, one of the things that our department is known for is if there is a public sector version of an incubator, it would be our little department in the city of Houston. And so if you do have those sort of initiatives you want to talk about, just come in and visit with us. We listen to new ideas every day, and our goal is, we have a lot of young, energetic people working in our department, as well as more seasoned, very, very smart people. And they're willing to listen to any new idea and see if it's something that we can work with. So please come in.
Well, thank you guys very much. So I would just like to say that we have voter registration forms. One of the best ways to get involved is to vote. So there are voter registration forms on the table where you got your name tags. If you're not registered to vote, find a time when I'm in here so I don't have to watch you and know that you weren't registered to vote yet. So I hope everyone's registered. So thank you very much for coming in and for your amazing work for the county and the city. And keep up the great work. Thank you. So the next thing we have is a panel on the hot topic of climate change. One of the things that we ask participants at most of our events, when we're out tabling at the film festival, we ask, what is your biggest environmental concern? And the vast majority of people indicate that climate change is their biggest environmental concern. So we do have a biased audience, so people who are coming to environmental events usually, so, but we wanted to make sure that was one of the focuses. And we are especially pleased this year to partner with Share of Texas. They are celebrating their 25th anniversary. And I'm going to have Janet Mavis, their executive director, describe or tell us a little bit about Share of Texas. But before she does, I just want to say, for the people who do participate in Share Workplace Giving, it is tremendously important to funding for the Citizens Environmental Coalition. And programmatically, it's important as well. And so we are huge fans of Share of Texas. And Janet, I think you'll really enjoy her and the panelists that we've assembled for today. So come on up, Janet. And the panelists, come on up.
Panelists, come join me. Okay. Okay, so I think this microphone is going to go over here. Is that this one? Oh, this goes here. But I whip a lot on here as well.
Yeah.
Is this on? Can y'all hear me? No. Is this on? It's not on. It's not on. This. There we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Janet Makus. I'm the Executive Director of Earth Share of Texas. We are the Environmental Fund for Texas. We're celebrating our 25th year this year, and for all of us who work in nonprofits, we know that every 5-year increment is something to be celebrated. This is a wonderful year, and there's been so much work throughout the years in the state of Texas into this organization. Very simply, what we do is we invite nonprofit organizations that have something to do with sustaining conservation, education of our environment to apply to belong to us. We vet them to assure that they have at least 2 years of experience and that they use no more than 25% of their budget in administrative work, so that the majority of their budget goes to their mission. And then we invite our other members to vote on whether or not they belong, and then we go out and we raise money for them. That's all we do. In the 25 years that we've been in existence, we've distributed a little more than $15 million to our various organizations. So in the way we primarily do this is through workplace giving. So if you or a loved one or someone that owes you a favor works someplace where they have payroll deductions, ask them if one of the organizations that they can support is Earthshare of Texas, and if not, let me know, and I'll be glad to go talk to their HR department and ask if we can just be one of the many people. We can take as little as $1 a pay period. And it's amazing the amount of work that is done for all of the citizens of Texas. Today we support 41 organizations across the state. And these people represent some of those organizations. I'm very proud to be here, and I haven't met all of you. I'm going to let them talk more about what they do, because we have a limited amount of time, and there's so much. The hot topic of climate change, I believe, is the most important justice, spiritual, theological issue, existential issue of our lifetime. We are all a part of creation, whether or not we want to believe it, and right now I think what we're finding out is, whoa, we're not in charge of it as much as we thought we were. So how do we figure out how to be in line and a part of creation and not attempting to dominate it? From the Houston Advanced Research Center, we have Gavin Dillingham. HARC was started in 1982. HARC provides independent scientific and engineering analysis on clean energy, air quality, and the quality and supply of water. From the Environmental Defense Fund, which is celebrating its 50th year, we have Matt Tresseau. Did I say that correctly? I had it in my, I don't know if y'all ever do this, I had his name in my head pronounced a different way, and so getting it from my head to my mouth I knew was perilous. From Public Citizen, we have Stephanie Thomas. It's really wonderful to have her here. Public Citizen has been around since 1971, and she is the first full-time employee from Public Citizen stationed in Houston. There is so much wonderful work going on in Houston. I'm so glad that Public Citizen is here. And Annalisa Peace, who is with the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance. The Edwards Aquifer is the sole source of drinking water for 1.5 million Texans. And it's the source of some of our largest springs. And so they work to preserve and protect its springs and watersheds. I'd like to jump right into some questions. And I'm going to ask some questions, and then y'all address them as you like. And one of the things that I want to kind of weave through this, because Matt comes to us with an expertise in media. And I think that what we're seeing right now is kind of fascinating in our country, that every media platform is important and it carries an incredible weight. And all of us work for these various organizations and municipalities, and how do we use those platforms? And so I hope Matt will be thinking about this as we address some of these questions. But the first question I have for all of you is, what do you think are the top climate risks for Texas and the city of Houston?
Predicted impacts are pretty grim. Can you get closer? Okay. According to a recent report that was released by actually the Risky Business Project, which is a coalition of business and industry here in the United States, unless we take immediate action, Texas will be one of the states most negatively impacted by climate change by 2050. We can anticipate a sharp increase in heat-related deaths, storm-related losses, especially along the Texas coast, and decreases in worker productivity and crop yields. New studies paint a really bleak picture for Texas over the coming decades if nothing is done to address climate change. By 2050, we will probably see doubling the number of days where the temperature is over 95 degrees from an average of 43 days now to 160 days a year. About 4,500 annual heat-related deaths per year, with nearly half of that increase coming in the next 5 to 15 years. Sea level rise of 2 feet in Galveston, $650 million per year increase in storm-related losses. And then, so we've got like threats to coastal infrastructure, like the prospect of increased hurricane activities affecting the refineries along the Houston Ship Channel, which would be an incredible environmental disaster. Across the states, compacted soil during extended droughts will exacerbate flooding and rain events, and we're already prone to cyclical droughts, so the prospects of droughts in increased severity and longer duration will be a real challenge for cities. Texas is growing so fast to secure adequate water supplies. We've got to deal with the heat wave and heat island effect in cities, increasing demands for water, and increased threat of infectious diseases, because we do have longer periods of heat will increase the populations of fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes and different different carriers of vector-borne diseases. And then we also have populations like the kissing bug, which used to be found only in Mexico, now is moving up into Texas as climates change. So it's actually a pretty grim picture.
Does anyone have anything to add to that?
Yeah, how about that? Like Janet said, I'm Stephanie Thomas. I'm with Public Citizen, and Public Citizen has been working for a number of years in Texas on energy, environment, and ethics. So those are our three main focus areas here. We also have an office in Washington, D.C. that works a lot on the federal level with consumer advocacy, with keeping corporations out of government. And we're currently actually suing the Trump administration because of their policy on for every new regulation that comes in to go out. And I think it's important to talk a little bit about what's happening federally, because there is a lot of uncertainty, because the Paris Accord, the U.S. has withdrawn from that. The Clean Power Plan has been held up. So locally is where we have the most power at this moment. And in Houston, as Annalise was talking about, we have such a potential for a grim future. So everyone in this room, I hope you feel inspired might not be the best word. I hope you feel compelled that this is an issue that is really important to us, especially given our location. We're a coastal area, close to the Gulf of Mexico. We'll be facing impacts from sea level rise. But I think all of us in this room have probably had some firsthand experiences that are giving us a taste of what's to come. So I moved to Houston in 2010, and then in 2011, we had a terrible drought. I think the statistic you mentioned was, 108 days above 95 degrees?
100 days in most Texas cities during that drought that were over 100 degrees.
And I remember stepping out every day and feeling like I was walking into a furnace. And that is going to become much more commonplace. And one of the things that we had during that time was issues with electricity as well. So everyone's going to be trying to cool themselves off. And it's going to create, it has the potential to create a lot of problems in terms of everyone having enough energy to do that, and also having that energy be equitably distributed. So there's some areas that are going to be probably more impacted than others, and I think that's an important point. The other thing that a lot of us in this room probably have firsthand experience with is flooding. So my car got flooded last year, and I think a number of people I know have had their houses flooded or their cars flooded as well. And this seems to be something that's going to continue. So these storm-related losses have a tremendous impact personally. You know, when someone loses their house, that's a huge thing. Like, it's a huge toll, not just losing their stuff, but just the emotional impact of that, right? I know that's a lot for people to deal with, and I know someone who lost their house was flooded one year, and then the next year, right as they started rebuilding, it was lost again. So this is taking a toll on people, not just at this economic level, but on a really personal basis. The financial toll, but also just, thinking about, like, if my house were flooded, I might lose, like, the family heirlooms or just the keepsakes that I really treasure. So there's a lot more than just money here. The other thing I do want to mention that I think you alluded to is the idea of the ship channel. So we do live in the Petro Metro. The largest petrochemical complexes reside here, and this has a huge impact. So as climate change continues, we're expecting increased hurricanes. And I just want to shout out to the Speed Center. They've done some research on this. And a 24-foot storm surge could have the capacity to have a huge impact. One of the largest environmental disasters could happen under that sort of scenario. And so all of us here would be impacted by something like that. So I think the picture is grim in a lot of ways, but I think the thing that we do have is people. And when people come together, we can make a lot of change happen. And I hope that you all continue to come join these types of events and get active in your community to push for change, policy changes, and other sorts of change that will help drive climate change mitigation and adaptation.
Gavin, I know that y'all are looking at some of the ways to deal with the issues that we know are confronting us right now, as I think that Stephanie made clear and Annalisa makes clear, is that these aren't things that are in the future. They're happening now. And so what are some, kind of a two-part question, is what are some ways that we might mitigate the power sector risks, and what are resiliency bonds and standards that we might look to put in place?
Sure. Yeah, so we had a pretty grim picture painted there as far as what we're looking at. And I need to pile just one little bit on that. One of the things that we're also concerned about is the risk of the economy within the city of Houston. When you take into account what our economy is based on, 70% is still oil and gas largely. We lost 77,000 jobs in the last decline in oil and gas. gas prices there. And you look at, so we kind of have a double climate risk. We have all the physical risks, the acute chronic risks that were just mentioned. But we also have a risk of changing preferences, of regulations, of divestment that's occurring. Most of the largest institutional investors are moving away from carbon-based type assets. You have a significant change in preferences as far as how people drive around or how they want to transport themselves. Most of the oil that's used in the United States goes to transportation. When we look at the changes in technology that are happening at this point, the decrease in lithium-ion batteries, the decrease in solar, wind, all the other non-fossil fuel or carbon-based resources there, you see a significant risk coming to an economy in the city of Houston, the Galveston region, or Houston-Galveston region, that a lot of people aren't talking about. We talk so much about the physical risks, but we don't, or the physical climate-related risks, we don't talk a lot about the actual economic risks and how much of our economy is tied up to fossil fuels that are largely seeing a decrease potentially. So as far as solutions goes, there's lots of opportunities to actually work through some of these problems. Diversification of the Houston economy, which we have been seeing that. We see a growth here in biotech. We've seen a significant growth in just becoming more of an innovative type sector. There's a group called Climate Capital Partners that's working on I believe it's in relation with Station and some of the other incubators here in town to develop maker spaces and develop incubators that allows more innovative type programs to come on, both hardware, software type programs to come along, or technologies to be deployed. So there's a lot of drive to diversify the economy. It's just going to take a lot of time because right now, the city of Houston, for the most part, we're pretty much fat and happy and making a lot of money, and it's hard to move that bus whenever everyone seems still to be doing pretty well here. As far as other ways in which to kind of pay for this stuff, there's a lot of issues that we're facing here, so we're going to need a lot of new infrastructure to come in place. Low impact development, flood mitigation, stormwater risk mitigation, infrastructure, new power infrastructure, focusing more on distributed generation, be like microgrids type applications, solar battery type applications. So how do you actually pay for that kind of stuff? And so there's a real big push right now, especially coming once again out of large institutional investors that are really looking at bonds, municipal bonds, just general purpose bonds that have green attributes associated with them. So they're called green bonds at this point. That market is growing significantly. And there's a lot of push right now in the institutional space to have more investment in that area because they want to diversify their portfolios that they have. And so you see a growing demand in this regard. I think about $75 billion in green bonds have been issued this year. And the municipal market is growing significantly. I think right now there's outstanding about $35 billion in green bonds just in the municipal sector. But these have specific green attributes. Right now they're really trying to work on the standards around that. But that's going to be a great opportunity to build more green infrastructure, transition away from gray infrastructure. It's also going to allow, and you also see that happening quite a bit on the power side, which is many of us don't realize that what percentage of our power sector is reliant on water. We had a discussion about drought and problems around that. 90% of we talk about a diversity of electric power out there. We have nuclear, we have coal, we have natural gas, biomass. All of that depends on water. So you may have a diversity of water or diversity of fuel sources, but all of them still depend on one particular piece there. And when we look at the 2011-2012 floods, we had some significant issues as far as potential brownouts and blackouts and power systems coming down there. So in any case, using these green bonds, there's a potential opportunity to kind of grow out a less water-dependent infrastructure, particularly on the distributed generation side, as well as utility-scale solar and utility-scale wind, which then goes into the development of other types of funding arrangements. We see a growing desire to be using these public-private partnerships. The Trump administration has talked about it a lot, which is their model is a little scary, but there is some opportunities there. You see the city of Houston actually looking at it for a large project they're doing at the airport to do a distributed generation combined heat and power system up there. It's about a 40 megawatt power system, power the entire airport on site, so improves the resilience of the airport, but doing a public-private partnership. The benefit of the public-private partnership is a lot of these municipalities are constrained as far as where they can lay their capital dollars. If you can bring in public-private partnership, you take a lot of that off the balance sheet, reduce some of your debt load, and you end up with the increase in opportunities for projects. Another opportunity are what's called resilience bonds. Those are starting to be really pushed by the insurance industry at this point. The resilience bonds are largely focused on building infrastructure that mitigates climate risk. The insurance industry is finally realizing that it can't just work in loss recovery. It can't just continue to pay out on the storm damage. The National Flood Insurance Program found that 12 of the last 15 major payouts, or highest payouts for flood insurance, came since 2000, and 5 of those were actually in the Houston region. And so that's just becoming unsustainable for the insurance industry to do that. So they're pushing the resilience bonds, which have the resilience bond, is that my indicator? The resilience bond, and there's also cat bonds, which are being combined together, and you're seeing some significant opportunities for funding in that regard as well. So we have a lot of kind of doom and gloom kind of issues we're facing here, but there are some significant solutions, especially when you start looking at what are the funding opportunities that are out there in the technology and the decrease in the cost of that technology and how quickly it's going to be able to be deployed near term.
Thank you. Matt, there have been some recent studies that have shown, and as when he was 15, pointed out to me, Mom, all statistics are made up on the spot 93% of the time. He made it up. Anyway, but there have been recent studies showing that the majority of Americans are now believing that rapid climate change is a result of human intervention. But I'm wondering, as we've watched, one news story or news cycle after another talking about climate change and what people think about it, what they believe or don't believe, which is sort of an interesting thing. It's not really a belief issue. But what do you think the role of media has been in informing and shaping American public opinion and then maybe policy as a result?
Well, is this working? All right. Well, last year when it came to media and climate change was an interesting year with the presidential election. We really didn't hear about it as part of that campaign. All right. We didn't really hear about it as part of that campaign. It wasn't an election year issue, and a lot has changed since then. June 1st in particular, with the retreat from the Paris Accords, really was a big moment. A lot of people were down at that time, but it was quickly kind of, in some ways, became an Independence Day of its own. We started to see a lot of cities and states take action, talk a certain way. And there's a survey released this week which gives some really good news about, gives some optimism about this as an issue. It's from the Center of Climate Change Communications, and it found that 68% of voters support regulation on greenhouse gases. 69% support strict limits on emissions from coal-fired power plants. 70% support a carbon tax, and 80% support federal money for clean energy projects. And so we're starting to see this, this growing public awareness. And what we're trying to do, or my job with the Environmental Defense Fund, in partnership with Public Citizen and Airlines Houston and Environment Texas and Environmental Integrity Project, and Rice University is involved too, is to take storytelling and the best science and to help return air quality, and in our case specifically Houston's air quality, to core mainstream values, so that when we are in election cycles, we are, this is an issue that's coming for candidates. That it's front and center with the media. And we're doing that by trying to amplify voices within the community and among scientists. A great example, many of you probably saw the powerful story in the New York Times yesterday about how, for the poor, the challenges of climate change are not in the abstract. That story was centered and focused in Galveston and Manchester. And so hopefully we're going to start seeing more of that, that kind of coverage. The climate story can be told, most media outlets do not have someone dedicated solely to climate. But it's something that can be worked into coverage across the board because it touches on so many aspects of our lives and business.
I think that one of the, just a little pet idea of mine, and I would encourage all of you, I think that conservation, preservation, and climate issues can be woven into every single news story that's out there. So if something happens that is occupying the news cycle, how can you weave your story in that? How can you contact the local news agency? There was a story down here a few months ago about a boy who shot a hawk or a falcon or an eagle, maybe. And I thought that would have been a great story to go in and just talk about, get it out of gun control and all that sort of stuff, but talk about kids and how do they know what kind of wildlife is native to their region? How would they see that? And how can we get in to teach children those sorts of things? I mean, so whatever story comes up, put on your own little interpretive lens of whatever it is that you do and say, how do I fit into that story? Because I guarantee you there is a way for you to weave your story into those stories. That's just the Janet Nakes little sermonette for the moment.
And I'd like to add, this special legislative session they've got SB 14 and House Bill 70, which actually would negate the ability of any municipality to enforce tree protection ordinances. And that has been a media bonanza because there's 90 cities in Texas that have tree protection ordinances, and they're all pretty mad. And so the hearings at the Capitol have just been amazing because you have this outpouring from city representatives on this issue, but also we've seen in every single newspaper across the state, articles about this that include information about the value of trees in improving air quality and mitigating flooding, and a number of providing shade to reduce energy consumption. And so sometimes these horrible things, because we saw that coming, we're like, oh my God, but it's actually turned out to be a fabulous media opportunity.
Yes.
Just add a little bit to kind of the discussion as far as how are we communicating this to people. It's good to see a bunch of environmental educators here. You guys understand and get it. See Lawrence right there in front. But what we see, especially within the science community and a lot of experts and pundits, is there's no way in which it relates to an average person or common person of how it actually impacts their daily life. We can spew out all these statistics. I mentioned something about 90% of our power grid is dependent on water, but most people don't really know what that means or care what that means and can't really relate to that. And so, what really needs to be done within to kind of really help the normal people who have regular jobs and really have other things that are on their mind is how does this relate to them in their day-to-day lives? How can they actually see it as something that's actually impacting them? And one of the significant issues we see within cities and regional governments, county governments, is this whole adaptation gap that's happening. And so they hear all this information about, you know, you're going to have a lot more storms, you're going to have a lot more flood risk, you're going to have more hurricanes. They don't, what does that mean? I'm going to have a lot more hurricanes. I'm going to have a lot more hurricanes in 50 years. I'm going to have a lot more hurricanes next year. You know, how as a city or as a community do you plan and respond to that kind of stuff when you have all these other competing interests, you have all these near-term things you have to be dealing with, and you have someone else yapping at you with all these statistics and numbers out there that can't really relate to your day-to-day piece of getting the budget put together and running your city. And so what we're trying to work at HARC and what we've been working with a lot of folks is how do you relate that to understanding how that's going to impact your day-to-day? How's that going to impact your community? How's that going to impact your population now and into the future? And, you know, working on these things with what's called the adaptation gap, where there's just so much information, so much data that's coming out there. You have this, a lot of cities have just kind of stopped because they're not sure what exactly am I supposed to do. Do I need to start preparing for floods? Do I need to start preparing for drought? Do I need to start preparing for hurricanes? And you only have so many resources, and you only have so many people that can do anything. And so, you know, trying to better understand how to communicate that in a way that they can understand what the probability is that they're going to be impacted by something. What's the severity going to look like? What's the magnitude going to be? And how does that actually affect their ability to operate near term and long term is key, and it's not been properly related to anybody. And just on a separate note, just more communicating with kids. We do a lot of talks with elementary school, high school kids and such. And we were talking about the tax day floods that happened. And a lot of numbers were out there as far as, you know, how much rain actually fell. It was what, May 15th last year, somewhere around there? 18. Yeah. April, whatever, yeah. Last spring. You know, it was the largest rain event that the city of Houston or Houston region ever experienced, ever. It was like 430 million gallons of water that had fell or something like that up in the northwest Houston. And you go tell kids 430 million gallons of water fell, and they're like, what does that mean, 430 million gallons? So we started talking to them about, in the term of astrodomes. So how many astrodomes worth of water fell that day? And it was 750 astrodomes worth of water. And so, you know, when you talk to them, when we first said it's 430 million gallons, we kind of looked at you like, eh. We showed them a picture of the Astrodome and said, look at the inside of the Astrodome. 750 of these were filled in one 12-hour period. They're just like, especially the boys who are into baseball and into sports and stuff, they really got that. But so it's those kind of pictures that are also key, and how do you relate to, especially younger generations, understand that it's just not numbers. They need to have a way in which they can directly relate to this stuff in order to take action.
Well, Gavin, I hope I'm not speaking just for myself, but I have to say that I was impressed with the 450 million gallons, but when you said, how many astrodomes? 750 astrodomes, I went, oh. I think maybe we all need those kinds of numbers are abstract. I mean, after you get past, 100, I don't really know what that looks like. So, thank you. Each of you have a moment here. One of the things that is clear in what you've been saying, and I think what we all know, is that rapid climate change is affecting all of us. I mean, the only thing that we don't know for certain is that it might affect our geological issues. We don't know how it might affect rocks or volcanoes or something like that, but it might, who knows. And so there are so many issues that are touched, and everyone is focusing so directly and importantly on their own particular issues that we need to be able to reach out to each other when we need an expert. If someone were to reach out to you, what is your expertise? Let's go down the road. Gavin, what can people, if they need help, why would they contact you?
Let's see. So what I largely do at HARC right now is focused more on, I'm the only social scientist at HARC. We're a bunch of hard scientists there, and so I get made fun of a lot for being a social scientist because I deal with humans and behavior and such. But most of the work I do is on the regulatory policy side. So we focus a lot on better understanding energy, power markets, the interplay between technology and regulations and human preferences or behaviors, attitudes. So that's one area, and then the other piece we work on a lot is just kind of decision-making within communities, cities, counties, state level, as far as decision-making under risk situations. So for resilience planning or climate action planning, how are the actual decisions made to invest in one particular type of infrastructure versus another? So most of the stuff is policy-related or kind of on the decision-making side that I work on.
So, I actually have a background in earth sciences, and I know I've come and spoken to a few groups, maybe to some of you in this room, about putting climate change into a different kind of context, into the geological context, because that's an important piece. Sometimes in debates you might hear, well, climate has always changed. So kind of giving people a frame of reference for, well, is that true? And how is what's happening right now different? Because let me tell you, this is different. So that's something that I'm happy to speak to people about. My work at Public Citizen is a little bit differently focused. So a lot of the work that I do actually centers around air quality issues and air quality around the transportation sector. So cars and diesel trucks and things like that, these are huge contributors to climate change. When you think about diesel, it's not just the CO2, it's also black carbon that gets emitted into the atmosphere and has a warming effect. So there's a lot that we can do on the transportation side. And just as a note, the Houston region is one of the largest contributors of CO2 in the United States. So we have a really big footprint here. And there are a lot of different ways that we can begin to tackle this issue. Another thing that I've been involved with recently, there's a large settlement, a $14.7 billion settlement that Volkswagen is now required to pay. A lot of it's going back to buying back personal vehicles, but there's also some funds that are coming distributed at the state level that will be used for environmental mitigation. And so we are advocating for these funds to be used to certainly reduce CO2 emissions, but we see a lot of potential for electric vehicles here. So that's one of the things that I'm also able to speak to.
Yeah, and actually people do reach out to our organization every day because we go through 21 counties, so kind of north of Georgetown all the way down to Del Rio on the Texas border is our service area. And within that service area, 4 of the counties and 4 of the cities are among the top 10 fastest growing areas in the United States. So my background's land use planning, and so we're really engaged. I mean, mainly we get calls from the office about 4 or 5 a week where it's like, oh my God, they're going to build this next door to me, what can we do? And our focus, because we are dedicated to protecting water quality, and that is our particular focus. And so the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone it's designated by the state of Texas as the most environmentally vulnerable area within the whole state. So we do a lot. I mean, we do research, and we have a technical director who can actually work with these people that reach out. If we determine it's something that we need to take on, we walk with them through every step that they need for permitting and like that. We have a lot of stuff up on our website. We've recently, I guess, within the past 5 years, been doing a lot of research on the impact of sewage on water supplies, because that's a huge issue that nobody's really paying attention to. And then we have a lot of programs. We've got publications on using low impact development. So we've been promoting that pretty much since our inception in 2004. So then we also do lobbying and public comments, and all of those are on our website. And like, this is an example. When we started doing low impact development, actually the EPA came to us and asked if we would have conferences on this. All the information was on the East Coast, and so it had all this stuff about what to do with excess rain. I'm like, this is Texas. We don't have excess rain, you guys. So we actually had to come up with our own manuals and information and all about how to adapt these low impact development techniques to Texas. And so it's like really good. Like I said, this is available for download, but all the plants that are native to this area that can be used in landscaping, exact directions on how people can put this stuff in their own yards. We have a community rain gardens program that we've been doing for the past 3 years, and I'm delighted because one of our local agencies, San Antonio River Authority, actually took over that program, which I love because I don't have to raise money for it anymore. So yeah, I guess there's a lot that you can reach out to us, and there's a lot of information on the website.
My personal expertise is just communications, and I help connect scientists and experts in these matters, and the best science with reporters, and help inform the public. But happy to talk to anybody about storytelling and messaging and social media. As far as Environmental Defense Fund, when it comes to climate, it's been very active in promoting clean energy. It's done tremendous work on working to reduce methane emissions, and with the whole idea that just trying to find solutions to so that people and nature prosper in these challenging times. So feel free to reach out to me at any time if you need to know more.
Thank you so much. There's so much that's happening. There is so much that is predicted that is scary, disheartening, and can leave us with this sense of gloom and doom. But look around. There are all of these people who are working to find solutions, who are finding solutions, who are doing things. It's not something that's happening in the future either. We're doing it right now. And as I've learned with EarthShare, $1 at a time all of a sudden ends up to be $15 million. And so in your personal lives, I encourage all of you to know your neighbors. Share a lawnmower if you need one. Find out if you can plant a garden together. Encourage hummingbird plants. The smallest things really can make the largest differences. There's no need to not be hopeful. There's every reason to be cautious and careful and to be working as hard as we can. But together, we have a beautiful earth that we're a part of. And so I encourage us all to take all this information to reach out to this extraordinary group of experts. And I have several other groups of experts if anybody has a question that I could probably connect you to. And go forth and do good in the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we are about to have a break. There is still some food out from Dr. Speck, and
Yeah.